Austin, we're going to go ahead and talk some liabilities here. How can shops, or what should shops do to protect themselves these days?
It's about relationships. Procure an excellent relationship with a person that sells insurance, someone who's going to look out for you, more so than you look out for you. Someone who's going to explain all of the options that are available, not in a dire need, you've got to buy everything type of expectation, but to the degree that you need to know what's available to you and know how in-depth today's world is, especially in the U.S., as far as having liabilities. You know, if somebody walks in your shop to look at this great wrap that you did in the back and they slip on a microfiber towel on the ground, like, is that your responsibility to manage that? And the answer probably is yes. So knowing when it gets into like cybersecurity, knowing, you know, if your information is tapped into, if your database that you save all your wraps on is tapped into, and then someone sends you a nice email and says, hey, for 50 grand, you can have it back. You know, you need to have protections in place for your business. It will make your business, it's an investment in your business. It'll make it last longer by knowing that you're covered in an instance when things like that happen. And liabilities are all over the place. So you've really got to have a great relationship. And that rings true for business in any element. Is you've got to have relationships with people who look out for you, who look out for your business, who have your best interest in mind. And if you don't have that today, I'd get on the phone, start looking it up on the plane ride home, and make sure that next week you have a meeting with your insurance representative, and make sure that not only you have insurance to the gills, but that you have the best insurance that you can, and know that it's going to protect you in the long run.
All right, Jen, my next question is for you. Considering your high-profile clientele, how do you keep your shop and your staff on the cutting edge of techniques and knowledge?
Like what a lot of the other guys have already talked about, coming to places like this, learning from people like Justin Pate, Jim Miller, Austin, and talking to them and finding out, even talking to your 3M representatives, Avery representatives, what's new, what's coming out. We tell our clients all the time we go to shows, and they get excited about us bringing new things back. When 3M came out with their Chrome, we knew exactly who would like 3M Chrome. When Avery came out with all their colored Chromes, we knew exactly who would like that. So coming to shows like this is really important. But also I think an important thing is learning not just what's new, but other aspects like customer service, negotiating. All those things are really, really important as well.
All right, Matt, my next question is for you. You and Dallas have been working together for a very long time. So either you guys got this thing figured out, or you're really good at faking it. What kind of advice would you have for other shops who are kind of having more people than just the one guy at the top?
Don't ever do a partnership. That's a joke, Dallas. It's a joke. I had to say it, man. I had to say it. No, Dallas and I have owned our business together for 15 years, and we worked together prior for another company together for 3 or 4. So we've known each other for a very long time. And I think the one thing that's worked for Dallas and I is we're not apples and oranges and oil and vinegar, but completely, totally different people, but also love what we do. And for those of you know, for 18 years, we've had 2 knockdown fights. No punches thrown, but, you know, confrontations. I don't think that's bad in 15 years. I think for Dallas and I, it took us 5 or 6 years to actually really get the respect for each other, and not only for us, but our employees. So our motto is, do what you do best and delegate the rest. Figure out who's good at what and use those traits and those characteristics of that employee or yourself to the full bore. The great thing about Dallas and I for 15 years is that, yes, I may be more sales and marketing and management, and he's more design and install, whatever, but we both have kind of taken those parts from each other. So Dallas actually dwells more into business now than he ever had before. He's looking at numbers, he's looking at overhead, looking at what we have to produce every week to make sure payroll's met, bills are made, and that we're profitable. And that takes some burden off me, and I think vice versa as well, is getting back there and rapping more and doing some more hands-on stuff. So it's been rewarding, but I think that's why it works, is that we kind of counterbalance each other. And we don't hang out after work. I mean, that sounds crazy, but when you first start a business, all you guys, I mean, you're 80, 90 hours a week, right? Sleeping in the shop. I mean, you're running off adrenaline. But we will go to a graduation, a funeral, we're supportive of each other, but once the doors close, we leave, and we'll see each other again either at the airport or in the office. So.
I couldn't consider myself a magazine editor unless I asked who won those fights.
Dallas did.
Adam, my next question is for you. One of the most common problems that all shops face these days is employee retention. What are some ways in which you work to maintain your staff and keep your employees happy?
I found that everyone wants to chase the dollar. Simple, right? When I was more freelance installer than I was shop owner, I chased every possible job I could possibly find and made as much filthy money as I could, right? And that's what every installer inside your shop wants to do. They hear people online, they see videos, they see articles online, social media killed it, you know what I mean? And there's so much information out there that they think they're gonna go out and make $1,500 a day. It's not like that as much anymore. And in order to keep those guys, you have to incentivize them, right? You have to give them something to chase, right? So I give them something to chase, right? I give them commissions, I give them bonuses, right? And that's what I do, because if they're getting a commission on let's say every square foot of vinyl they put down, right? How hard do you think they're gonna work for you? Right? It's simple. You give them a salary of something and you give them bonuses, right? You give them something to look forward to. You know, I have one guy that some days he averages $25 an hour. Other days he averages $75 an hour, right? It really just depends on how much work he gets done. And for installers, I found that's now our the new way to do it. You know, there's nobody that's going to work harder for you than some guy that realizes, hey, if I put the time in, if I put my best effort forward, if I'm doing quality installations, I get something out of it. You know what I mean? Instead of just sitting there and milking the clock. So that's kind of in employee retention. I think that's one way to do it. You know, and don't hang out after work.
Okay. Chad, next question is for you. Branding is essentially at the heart of what we do. What are ways that you and your shop work to elevate your brand?
So I'm a little different bird in the aspect of, you know, I'm just a subcontractor installer. So when you say shop, I'm just an individual. But so branding's, you know, it's tough for me in the aspect of when somebody hires me, they hired Graffiti Wraps. They technically hired Chad Parrish. You know, that's who they hire. So, you know, for me, the branding aspect has changed a little bit and trying to realize that. But, you know, for me, the biggest thing when it comes to business for me and keeping the clients that I have is a consistency. And when I say consistency, it's no different what Jen said, and she does every job the same, whether it's a sticker on a door or a chrome wrap. You know, if I give everybody the same treatment, you know, 100%, I never shut down. That's always what they get. If I can't give them that, you know, then I step away for a second until I can give them that. And then education. Education's huge for me. And, you know, you see a lot of these guys up here, and every day, you know, you think we know everything, but in reality, materials change, techniques change. So to stay on the education level and to do the trainings, to, you know, like Jim said, Wrap Institute is great. You know, Justin does an excellent job. You know, he does. In reality, he travels around the world. He gets to see different techniques, different installers, different ways of doing things. So, and he puts that out there for us. And I mean, I have a lot of respect for that, because when I first initially started, you know, and Jim, you know, he could say the same, you know, 40 years ago. But no one wanted to share information, you know, and it's crazy, because now you come to these shows and you talk to people and everyone's so open, and that's what I was talking about, that family. It's unreal that people share. But, and then thirdly, you know, look out for the customer. I always look out for the customer. You know, I have two customers. I have the customer that gives me the print, and I have the customer, the end user. So I'm looking at, you know, I look at those customers as the same. You know, I'm not going to treat either one of them different, you know, so I'm going to give them 100%. If I see something wrong, I'm not going to stick it. You know, I'm going to stop that job right there. If it's going to fail, it's going to affect us all three of us. You know, I want the repeat business, you know, so I'm the first one to say, hey, something's not going to work. You know, I always ask questions right off the get-go. First thing I ask for is a proof, material, what we're using, before the customer even sees it. Because that way I can say, hey, let's switch it up here. You know, I have experience with that, it failed, I don't want to go down that road. You know, I want that business to come back to you, and I want that business to come back to me. So.
All right. Dallas, I got a question for you. Let's break it down to 3. What are the 3 key elements of designing car wraps?
So I think for anybody new and designers getting into it, if I broke it down into categories, I think you need to create the process that you're going to run your customer through. And then, you know, I guess, designing the, I'm having a moment here. So designing for me, just the process of what I'm running them through. I know that me and Matt have learned a lot over time. Designing smart, knowing that keeping things clean. I know at the shop we kind of hack on Matt a lot because he's the swoosh master. He likes to dodge door handles, but the thing that is smart about it, and that I've learned,
Third fight's coming soon.
yes, is you know, that our installers are able to put it on faster. So I know even in the beginning, I used to design, I thought that's what made it, is in the beginning, you know, 2004, I would try to design wraps so crazy that, hey, they're gonna know that this isn't paint, because it's not possible. And then I think over time, and that's where, you know, hearing Casey say it, I'm thinking, all right, I'm in the right mindset, because simplifying things, you know, one of the key things that I do when I sit them down is, after I've kind of showed them the design, I actually will back the design out, or hold an 8.5 up by 11 and hold it up and say, you know, if we can read this here from this far away, we're able to see the car from across the expressway. The designs have to be effective, because if their end user doesn't know what they do, they're not going to come back for more. You know, so for us, and I think, you know, in the design process, I mean, there's so many roads to go down, and I think that's probably what's interesting over time is the experience that we have with customers and the faults that'll happen. We kind of make new rules, and so now when you come in, I think for sure right now is people come in, they want to design for a wrap, and it's like, okay, well, do you have a logo? Because for us, logo is one thing, and you know, laying out the wrap is 2 different things. So obviously, it's a great thing when they come in and they have all the elements. So really, you know, I was telling my designer, you know, a couple weeks ago, like we're arrangement artists. We take the same things. It's different cars. We're dodging door handles. The logo can go here. The website can go here. So for us, I do the design in phases. I kind of like, for me, text and logo placement is one phase, and then background theme is the second. Because I don't like for them to get caught up in the background, like, oh, I don't really like this fill, or I don't like the theme. But to me, let's agree on the first thing. You know, hey, here's where the logo can be. It can be big right here. We can do the web here, the phone here, or we can reverse it. So for me, I think walking it in phases, because I know I used to go way too far. I would design the whole theme and get everything together, and then go, well, I don't really like that. So to me, I've kind of dumbed it down into levels of, here's placement, okay, now here's theme. Once we've agreed on that, and I've got one side dialed in, well, I'll make the hood match, I'll make the rear match. How's the transition gonna be? So a lot of it is, you know, is like a video game. You know, the more complicated we want the fills to be, all right, well, what's the transition gonna be at the back near the bumper? And so, you know, I think that's where over time you'll kind of craft that. And hone in those skills that'll make it easier. But obviously, some of my wraps aren't easy to put on. So I think you got to find the right customer. You got to find what fits for them. And then for those ones that want the little more exotic stuff, I mean, right now there's 3 designers in-house, and we all design kind of differently for different customers. And then I think maybe, you know, the last thing I'd say is, you know, get paid for what you do. For years, it was a thing, like, all right, when you do business with us, when you do an experience with us, I'm gonna give you something that nobody else can give you. And I think we probably left a lot of money on the table. You know, we're now, and we know, even if you go get a business card, you go get a hat, whatever, there's a setup fee, there's a beginning. Okay, well, cool. Well, how many images are we gonna be using? So, you know, we've kind of got roundabout ideas, and that's where, as a designer, when you sit down with somebody, you got to say, okay, what information am I taking? What are they going to want to create? Is it simple? Is it gradient? Or am I going to create this super realistic background? And you got to know, am I going to be able to create it from scratch in time? Do I need to get on, Shutterstock or get on Images and be able to pay and protect me and my customers, being able to buy copyrighted images? So, but I think for sure is getting paid for what you do and them knowing, because forever design was, hey, it's going to cost this much. Okay, well, but here's really what's going to happen. We're going to walk it in phases so I don't get too far and maybe you feel like your time isn't being spent properly. So hopefully I didn't ramble on. There was no applause yet, so hopefully.
I can't say if that's good or bad. Sorry. Thank you. Before I open up the microphone to the floor for questions, I do have one last question for all of you. And if we could start, actually, Dallas, and come this way, and if we could do this without advertising our fellow panelists, that would be fantastic. But what is the one piece of advice you would give to this audience, to people watching online later, to anybody out there in the Wraps market?
Create process for everything you do, from them dropping the vehicle off to how you're going to get paid to how the design's going to do. I think for us, it's A, B, and C over and over. And then as you have experiences with customers, you say, oh, man, I didn't see that one. So, okay, well, we got to shift it up a little bit. But I know over the past 2 years, through me and Matt brainstorming and the stuff we've gone through, is creating a step and a process for every part of your business. That has really helped us. And Matt's a really big stickler of just not letting the customer control us, not letting them drive us, because we say, well, we've done these vans 100 times. What happened? What went wrong this time? Oh, they provided the photo. They provided the measurements because they just didn't want to come by. So, I think we've just gotten stricter and stricter with our rules, and we're in a good place where I feel happy that we can do that and kind of pick and choose. And sometimes we're actually interviewing our customer when they come in. We're thinking, all right, what kind of person is this? And, how can I run this to where this goes smoothly for both of us? And I think a lot of that is communication. So, but for sure, create that process for every step, even if you're just in T-shirts, if you're just going to be doing wraps or walls. So I think that's what's helped us the most.
Oops, sorry. I kind of want to elaborate on what Dallas was talking about prior, and for any of you guys out there designing and just designing, think about the installer. I'm an installer, and there's nothing worse than getting something that takes me 10 times longer. When it comes to design, production, install, all those ducks have to line up, because if those ducks don't line up, it's nothing but a nightmare. When he talks about transitions, between bumpers, defenders, make sure that's clean. Don't give someone a pattern. Think about the end result, and, you talk about efficiency and all that good stuff like that. If you slow that installer down, that's money out of your pocket too, because it just, so the biggest thing for me is making sure that all those ducks are, make sure there's communication, like Dallas said, because, yeah, it'll just be a nightmare, so.
Oh, man. I'm going to try and say this as nice as possible. Stop being cheap, right? Everybody seems to want to buy the $100 roll of film to complete a job. I used to be that guy. I used to be the guy that was like, hey, what's the cheapest roll of laminate you guys have, right? What's the cheapest roll of vinyl that you guys have? And then all I would do is reprint the job 8 times to get it right? But I was using the cheapest roll, so I was like, yeah, I'm still making money, right? And then all of a sudden I go out and spend $450 on a roll of film, and it takes me 5 minutes to get a job done. When I was cheap, I lost more money than when I spent more money on the film, and I make way more now, right? Because to me, time is money. The difference between using a film without, we use a ton of 3M film. Like, yeah, I'm a 3M trainer. Okay, I use all 3M film. It has nothing to do with me being a trainer. It's the fact that I found that every film that I've tried to work with, that's one that I like the best, right? That's one that's performed the best for me. I carry a couple different films, but for me, I always have something that's gonna make the install easier, because that's where the most money is spent in my shop. The most time is spent on a job in the install. Pairing up okay, we'll use that good film, but hey, go use that cheap laminate, right? Let's go back to that cheap lam. We'll use a good film so the adhesive's good, but let's go back to that cheap lam. Then we find all of a sudden that the prints are curling up on themselves and they're a nightmare to work with, right? So my one thing of advice is don't be cheap, right? Become knowledgeable in the films and the products that you're offering and what their intended use is, right? And experiment a little bit. You know, you're gonna have to try them. I mean, I've probably opened up the Feller's catalog and bought every single roll that's in that catalog at some point in my career. You know, I didn't know what I liked until I tried it out. So don't get stuck in the just the slow lane, right? You gotta move over and try a couple different things. That's my advice to you.
My advice would be, whether you're starting out or in business, is to stop basically lowballing your business to satisfy cheap people. I've said this before, said it last year. I had a client of mine, and it was a business investment banker, and he said, man, you guys are basically designing and printing and manufacturing and installing custom tailored suits for vehicles, which is what everybody in this room does, whether it's some shape, form, or fashion. And I guess every industry has this, but this is not a race to the bottom. And I feel like that at times it is. This is not a really big industry. If you look at our industry, I mean, it's big, but it's not big. We're not plumbers, electricians, you know what I mean, cabinet makers, but in a way we are. But it's a smaller niche group where I don't think we'd ever be unionized. But the point is, maybe we should, but the point is that just take pride in your work and make sure you're charging what you need to charge. And also let your clients know that in order for you to grow too, you're gonna have to raise your prices if things go on. Labor's more expensive, insurance costs more, right? Everything's going up, but yet everything else goes down. It makes no sense. So just take pride in your work and quit satisfying cheap people. I can beat anybody's price, right? Of anything, so.
Thank you. I think one of the biggest things for us is getting to know our clients. We not only we're not selling jobs, like I said earlier, we're selling an experience. So we get to know our people in a very intimate way. We talk about personal things. Like everyone, we're a family-owned shop. Everyone knows our daughter. We talk about our kid all the time. And that hopefully makes people feel more connected to us. So in the same fashion, when we're talking about ourselves, we're also, like Dallas said, interviewing our clients. Is it somebody that we want to work with? We've learned the hard way that it's okay to say no. You don't have to say yes to every job. You don't have to do every job. If you get a bad gut feeling, follow it, because we've had some bad experiences and we've learned saying no sometimes is just easier to walk away. And that's my biggest advice.
So everyone has said something great. It all fits, it all works. For me, I would say do what you love to do. Too many times in business, we get wrapped up in growing a business. We find that the individual that started the business drifts off into another part of the business, and all of a sudden becomes very miserable doing accounting because that's not what they enjoy doing. So I've always told everybody that I employ, I hire you to do what I feel you love doing. And if you're here in an interview with me, I feel like you love doing what I'm hiring you to do. Everybody that I've hired to come on to work for me does what I'm hiring them to do better than I do, because I'm not good at that. But what I am good at is what I stick to. And I don't try to drift off into other places in the business where I'm not good at that. It only makes my business look worse. It makes me look not as good as I could be. So my advice would be stick to what you're good at and don't do what you're not good at.
I would say I was teaching a workshop actually at 3M headquarters in 2011 or 2012 in Brussels. And I was teaching the workshop, and some kid came up like halfway through the workshop. He says, hey, can I show you how I do corners, maybe different than yours? And he had been wrapping 2 months, and his corners were way better than my corners. You know what I'm saying? And it was interesting. I was the one teaching the workshop. I was at 3M. I've been wrapping for 16 years, and this kid had been wrapping for 2 months, showed me something better. And it was one of those moments where a light bulb went off, and I was like, cool, that's what I'm going to do now. And after that moment, I constantly, anytime I saw something that was better than what I was doing, I incorporated it. And so I kind of checked my ego. So when I started the Rap Institute in 2014, my partner was like, what slogan do you want? I was like, never stop learning. He's like, cool, let's trademark it. I'm like, cool. All right. So my point is, I mean, that's how I've taught workshops. I mean, anyone who's taken my workshop, and if you've taken it twice, the second one's different than the first one. And I'm always picking up new tips and tricks all the time. And I think there's the one person who personifies that more than anyone in this room is sitting next to me on my left is Jim Miller. I mean, seriously, I mean, I think Jim is rapping better now than he rapped ever, than he's ever have. And he's getting older by the second. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, when I teach a workshop at Jim's place, Jim is like, he's always listening in. He just wants to pick up that one new thing that's going to make him rap better because he loves to rap, but he runs a very successful shop with Starla. And I think that's the secret for their success in many ways is Jim's never stops learning. It's really, for me, Jim, he's a big inspiration for me. So that's cool.
Can I just interrupt real quick and say, poor Starla's, I mean, she's got to feel like she's married to a dinosaur after this sit down this morning.
But the $100 I gave Jim earlier, you can give it back.
Well, my advice, it's our business is based completely on installation. Been doing it my whole life. So my advice is for the installers out there. It would be it's going to be quick and easy. Make your next panel better and faster and cleaner than your last one. That's it.
Before we started PDX Wraps in my garage, my last job was a design job at a corporation, and I had a real good mentor there. And when I told him that, hey guys, I'm thinking about leaving and doing my graphics full time, they were all for it. And Steve, my boss, the owner of the company, total cool businessman, multi-millionaire dude. He said, I'm going to keep track of you, Case. Go do it. And if it fails, you're welcome back. And he'd stop by the shop every once in a while back in the early days. And he goes, Case, how's it going? I said, Steve, it's going good. Made the right choice. Everything's great. And he goes, are you getting every job? And I go, yeah, I'm getting every job that comes in the door. And he goes, why? And just like, another light bulb. He says, you shouldn't be raise your prices. If you're getting every job, you're not charging enough. And that has stuck with me for 12 plus years. So that's one thing think about that. If you're getting every job, I even tell my guys, Austin, my shop manager, I said, don't be afraid to add that extra 250 or because you always come down, you can't go up, And then the biggest thing at the shop lately is managing customer expectations. You got to do that. You got to let people know what they're getting. Luckily we haven't learned the hard way too many times, but if the customer knows exactly what they're going to get when they get it, you're going to be better off in the long run. And then one more thing, I went to Justin's boot camp, and the thing that struck a chord there with me is seconds equals hours. You can waste a lot of time if you see a bad print coming off your printer and no one says anything about it, and that gets put on a truck, and then you walk by it and go, man, that looks bad. That shouldn't have happened. You just wasted a day. I should have just stayed home and mowed the lawn, because I'm coming back tomorrow and redoing that. So, I tell the guys, everybody keep an eye on everything going on, and if you see something, don't hesitate to question it. The sooner we figure out there's a problem, the sooner we can fix it. So those are kind of three things that kind of stick with me. And one more thing. And I tell my guys also, if you're thinking about what's going on today, you're running behind. I try to get them to focus on what's happening next Thursday. Do we have what we need for that job coming in next Thursday? They kind of get stuck in the day, and which is good. They focus on what's going on. But 9 times out of 10, if I go, Austin, do we have material for that full wrap coming next week? Ooh, crap. Yeah, I'll get on that. So just look ahead. If you're working today, you're kind of running behind. So that's kind of a few different things we run at the shop. So.
All right. So to me, I would say that obviously everybody had mentioned about customer expectation. So if the customer knows what he's going to get, obviously he's going to be a happy customer. To me, it's very important to know your inventory. I'm pretty sure if I walk in some of you guys' shop, you have so much vinyl there, you don't even know how much you have left in what row. You don't know how much cast, how much calendar films you have. I will highly suggest narrow your films. Stick to what works. Obviously, 3M is a great product. Just beside being a 3M trainer, it seems to work for me. It helps me to sell my wraps, my graphics by adding that extra insurance, that extra MCS warranty that ink is not gonna fade. Have a process, just like Dallas says. A, B, C, D. Never skip a corner. Give the customer what they want. And last thing, and one of the most important things to me will be have everything on writing. Never price anything over the phone. You don't want to be put in a situation where your word versus your customer words. So you can talk about prices, you can do all that, but make sure you send an email with detailed information so the customer understand and what to expect. So if something ever happens in the future, you can always go back and refer to that email and forward to the customer, because when the time goes by, nobody will remember. And the worst thing you wanna to do, you wanna upsell, you wanna gain customers, and actually that is the best way to do it. So I highly recommend keep control of your inventory, know what you have on the shelf, have a process, exceed customer expectation, stand behind your product, and have everything on writing.
All right, I'd like to open up to the floor. Anybody who has any questions?
I'd like to go back on what Adam said about how to pay your employees. Do you think it should be like an hourly thing or a set salary with incentives like bonuses and?
It depends on the situation, depends on the person. You know what I mean? There's no way for me to really perfectly answer that question, because I got no to what you're doing. You know, kind of going with what Luis said though. Everything's got to be in writing. You have to set those expectations, right? If you don't set your expectations for your customers, for yourself, right, for your employees, you're always playing catch up. Right? So you have to set the expectations. If they don't follow those expectations, it's no hard feelings. You know what I mean? You gotta go. I mean, I got a guy that works for me. We've been buddies since we were kids, you know, and I brought him in January to kind of become my shop manager, to kind of run the place, because I do so much outside of the shop. I have so many 3M trainings, and I'm traveling, and I'm coming to events like this, and so I need somebody that can be there, that can be my voice of reason while I'm gone. You know, it's one of those things that I had to set the expectations, and just because we're friends and we've known each other since we were kids, it doesn't mean that, you know, when we're at the shop, that relationship to us, it 100% disappears, which is something that I never have experienced before when I've hired a friend of mine, right? But it disappears. I'm the boss, he's employee, and we respect that relationship. And I think that's the most important thing. And then when it goes to paying stuff, it really, it's, you pay based off performance, right? So I'm not gonna sit here and bonus you out $300 on finishing that full wrap in a day. If that full wrap, I can't sell it, right? If it comes back, what does that $300 bonus to you do? Nothing, right? Because it costs me not only the $300, but then all the cost to fix it. So you have to get creative with the way that you do it. And again, it's got to be set in stone. You know, we have employee handbooks that everyone's got to sign. They know exactly what their expectations are, right? And if they don't follow them, I have a written out deal saying this is your consequences for not following it. Hey, if you violate this, it may be 2 days off without pay. If you violate it again, it may be a week off without pay. If you violate it again, I might just terminate you on the spot right there, right? And they know what the expectations are, and you set it up that way. There's no arguments, right? You sign this, right? This is your deal. Same thing with pay. This is what you signed up for, right? If you're upset about it, you should have said something in the beginning, because this way you were set up, you know. And then have reviews, right? So you have a review, and if they're doing great, pay them some more. Right? Because that dude's making you money. At the end of the day, I want to keep them as happy as possible, because the happier they are, the happier I am. Right? So that's kind of, I hope that helps answer your question a little bit. But.
Next question.
So this question kind of goes out to, it's more directed towards Jim and Justin, but this world we live in today, everyone wants to be recognized. They want to see how many likes or how many views their videos are getting. in our industry, it's extremely small. You got this, for us, we push social media really hard. So we have our face out there all the time. For your installers, for your team, how do you manage that success? They want to be famous. They want to be the next Jim Miller. They want to be traveling the country to do all of these cool things they see on the internet. What is a good suggestion on how you can manage those expectations for the future?
That's something we struggle with a lot. So with our employees, we control social media output, and I want them to be the next Jim Miller, to tell you the truth. I want them to learn and take off. I want them to be the next Justin Pate or whatever. I want them to be huge, and some of them are not going to be working with us anymore, but, that's the hard part is, letting go of people. But as far as controlling social media and letting them take off, I mean, we're trying to run everything through our company. So if they do post and it has to be through Miller decals, but that's a tough question. It's hard to control that. I mean,
maybe it's because my wife is Dutch, but years ago, and I mean, she was in television and stuff like that. So I kind of, fame is a weird thing. I've never even thought about it. I don't know. I've never bought a like. I don't even know how to buy a like. I have my followers just because it happened. And my wife is always just saying it can go away just like that. I mean, likes don't get you money. Likes don't get you friends, And it's interesting. It is part of the game today, I'm saying, but I mean, there's people in this industry who get a lot of likes and they don't make a lot of money. They don't run a good business, or they're not ethical. You know what I'm saying? So for me, all that kind of stuff. If you have a lot of time to comment on Facebook, you're probably not making a lot of money because you're probably not working. So it's one of those things where I don't go on social media very much for me personally. So I don't have a lot of. I don't know. It's an interesting thing, this whole social media thing. But I would say. I don't know, it's not something to be attached to. You know what I'm saying? I think it's the people who are, I've actually found the shops that are the most successful, you don't even know that they exist. It's interesting.
I'm going to jump on that real quick, if you don't mind. That was a good question. And I believe that that's an opportunity right there for, like Adam was talking about, the handbook. So I believe that you need to add to the handbook and have some type of consequences, because I do a lot of work for customers, their confidential work, and I bring people to work, and I got to be on top of them and tell them, look, you can take as many pictures as you want, but you need to respect my customers, respect us, and we need to keep it confidential. When you start growing up and you lose control of that, it could be devastating. So at that point, I will highly suggest to add it to the handbook and take the step and precautions.
Can I just add in too, Charlie? Any type of individual who's trying to better themselves rather than the whole organization is you've kind of got bad blood there to begin with. I think what these guys have said I've never conceptualized before, as far as the handbook and making sure that you really monitor what's being put out, and that it is being put out by the standard company that did it, not everybody in and around it. But I think that's a warning sign kind of early on. There are many people that have worked for me and gone on to be very successful in the industry, and that's great. But I implore them to do that on their own at the time that they leave the company. Then you can make yourself as marketable, or market yourself as much as possible. But under a company, the whole idea to make the company work is to work together as a team. And if there's any one person, even the head, that's got to be more famous than anybody else, then there's always going to be a demise there. There's always going to be an issue. So, I work side by side with every one of my guys. I don't need to be the face of anything. I would prefer everybody around me be the face, the entire company be the face of what we produce and what we put out there.
If I could say one more thing, what I'm doing this year different in my booth at Rap Institute is we have a lot of the hands-on demos. You can come practice film, and I have a lot of set demos with the manufacturers. But I'm also doing like exclusive interviews. Like today, I'm doing Sharif Khan. He's flying down from San Francisco right now. I'm doing Charlie tomorrow. And one thing that's really interesting, I think this kind of comes back to you, is I think what Charlie's doing on social media right now is genius. It's great. you know. And so, I mean, if you can come by the booth tomorrow, I think it's 11:45 or something like that. Charlie is involving his whole company in the social media, which is really quirky, awesome stuff, which is cool. No, but I mean, it works for you and it's great. So, I mean, I think it's one of those things where I would say instead of having your employee do their own thing, incorporate them in the whole company, and that kind of is a really interesting hook. I think it's cool stuff.
All right. Unfortunately, I think I'm out of time here. So I would like to recommend everybody stop in and visit our panelists during the show. They will all be on the floor. They're all great sports about this. And I really appreciate them all joining us this morning. I would also like to thank 3M for sponsoring us this morning. So if you have any more questions after this, be sure to catch up with them as they are working. And thank you all very much for coming, both panelists and guests. Thank you.